Assalamu alaikum. Can everyone please turn your phones off, please, inshallah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. As we continue this khutbah series titled as Al-Isti'dadu lil-Akhirah, preparation for the hereafter. In the previous two khutbahs we spoke about how one can be successful in this dunya and be from the successful when it is his time to pass. As he subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. That verily all of mankind is at a loss except those who do righteous deeds and have al-iman. And then we spoke about how one would know about if he is from the successful or if he is from the losers at his time of death. And then also we spoke about if he is from the successful or the losers when he enters the grave. Next we will speak about life after death. And this is the last day. And belief in the last day is a mandatory belief that every human being is obligated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to believe in it. And its place in al-Islam is that it is one of the core fundamentals of a Muslim, one of the core fundamentals of al-Iman. As we know that al-Iman is amantu billah wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wa yaumil akhiri wal qadr khayrihi wa sharrihi. That al-Iman, it is belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, belief in the angels, His scriptures, His prophets and messengers, belief in the last day, and belief in the preordainment, both the good and the bad of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He associates the belief in Him with the belief in the last day and in the afterlife. And therefore whoever does not believe in the last day does not truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when people do not believe in the last day, they will not work for it like someone who does believe and have knowledge of that last day. His actions, or shown by his actions, and hope for honor on that day, Yaumul Qiyamah. Those who disbelieve in the last day, and also those who do not have awareness or knowledge of this last day, they fear no retribution, they fear no punishment, thus becoming just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described them in the Quran. وَقَالُوا مَا هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا نَمُوتُ وَنَحْيَا وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ. And they say, there is nothing but our life in this world. We die and we live, and nothing destroys us but time. Yaumul Qiyamah, the day of resurrection, the day of judgment. It is called the last day because it is a day after which there will be no other day. It is the final stage. It is the end goal of all of the stages through which we pass through, from non-existence to the stage of creation in the womb, to be born into this dunya, to live in the life in this dunya, death and the grave and the hereafter. And it is the end of our journey. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in His book, ثُمَّ إِنَّكُمْ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ لَمَيِّتُونَ ثُمَّ إِنَّكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ تُبْعَثُونَ. Then after that you will all certainly die. Then indeed you all on the day of resurrection will be resurrected. The resurrection is when mankind will rise from their graves to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of all of the creation. Shaykhul Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he calls this the greater resurrection, indicating that there is also a lesser resurrection. And this lesser resurrection is the one pertaining to each individual as they witness before their own eyes the beginning of their hereafter, their new life after death. So each individual has his own resurrection. But as the greater resurrection, this is what we discuss over the next few months about the events that will occur on the major resurrection, which is Yaumul Qiyamah. The first event on the day of judgment is the souls returning to the bodies. And this will occur after the second blast of the horn, and after the souls have left their bodies at death. Yet this return of the soul to its body is not the same return that we mentioned a few weeks ago when the soul is returned to the body in the grave. This is not the same return. That time where the stern angels ask you, who is your Lord? What is your religion? And who is your messenger? This is not the same return. As for the blowing of the horn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will command the angel Israfil to blow into the horn. And at an instant, everyone in the heavens, everyone on earth, except whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills otherwise, they will be shocked, terrified, and they will fall dead. Israfil, he would then blow a second time the horn, from which all of the souls will scatter, returning back to their bodies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in His book, وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَصَعِقَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ ثُمَّ نُفِخَ فِيهِ أُخْرَى فَإِذَا هُمْ قِيَامٌ يَنْظُرُونَ. And the horn, it will be blown, and whoever is in the heavens and whoever is in the earth will fall dead except whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. Then it will be blown again, and at once they will be standing looking on. And He subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also mentions in His book, وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَإِذَا هُمْ مِنْ أَجْدَاثِ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَنْصِرُونَ. And the horn, it will be blown, and at once from the graves to their Lord they will hasten. جاء في حديث في صحيح مسلم عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم ينفخ في الصور فلا يسمعه أحد إلا أصغى ليتا ورفع ليتا وأول من يسمعه رجل يلوت حوض إبله فيصعق ويصعق الناس ثم يرسل الله أو قال ينزل الله مطرا كأنه طل أو ذل فتنبت منه أجساد الناس ثم نفخ فيه أخرى فإذا هم قيام ينظرون ثم يقال يا أيها الناس هلم إلى ربكم وقفوهم إنهم مسؤولون. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, in the authentic hadith collected in Sahih Muslim, he said, then the horn will be blown, and everyone who hears it will tilt his head in attention. And the first one to hear it is a man repairing his camel's water trough. Then he will be shot and he will fall dead. and the rest of mankind will also fall dead. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause to descend rain like dew from which the people's bodies will grow. And then he recited the verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it will be blown again, and at once they will be standing looking on. And then it will be said, O mankind, come to your Lord, waqifuhum innahum mas'ulun. O mankind, come to your Lord, but stop them, certainly they are going to be questioned. Shaykhul Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he said regarding the statement, then the souls return to their bodies. And this indicates that the souls will not disperse from the horns below until after the bodies have become recreated and completed. So when they are created again, the horn will be sounded, then the souls will return to their bodies. Brothers and sisters, the resurrection is understood to be the kind of return or remaking and not a new creation. Rather, it is a return to something that has left or that has changed. The body turns to dust, the bones decay, and still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring together these separate body parts and particles back into a formed body. Then the souls will return back to those bodies. Whoever claims that the bodies will be a new creation, this is a false claim and a false understanding which will be refuted today from the Quran and the Sunnah and the intellect of the Muslims. As for evidence from the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in his book, هُوَ الَّذِي يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُ وَهُوَ أَهْوَنُ عَلَيْهِ. And it is he, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who begins creation, then he repeats it, and that is even easier for him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning he will repeat the creation that he first began with. In Hadith al-Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, لَيْسَ أَوَّلُ خَلْقِي بِأَهْوَنَ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ إِعَادَتِهِ. That the initial creation is no easier for me than remaking him. And everything is easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he subhanahu wa ta'ala, he also mentions, كَمَا بَدَأْنَا أَوَّلَ خَلْقٍ نُعِيدُ. As we began the first creation, we will repeat it. And he subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions, ثُمَّ إِنَّكُمْ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ لَمَيِّتُونَ ثُمَّ إِنَّكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ تُبْعَثُونَ. Then after that you will certainly die. Then indeed you all on the day of resurrection will be resurrected. And he subhanahu wa ta'ala, he also mentions in his book, قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ خَلْقٍ عَلِيمٌ. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, he, mankind, he asks, who will give life to the bones while they are decayed and disintegrated? Say, he, subhanahu wa ta'ala, will give them life who produced them the first time, and he is the Lord of all of the creation, the all-knowing. As for evidence from the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that the bodies will be repeated and recreated and not a new creation, there are many ahadith. But one we will point out here today, and which I will use later in the khutbah, is a statement of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, يُحْشَرُ النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ حُفَاةً عُرَاةً غُرْلًا. That the mankind, they will be resurrected, barefooted, naked, and uncircumcised. The point in this hadith is that mankind themselves is mentioned as being resurrected and not some type of new creation. And what is important to know, that the resurrection will be a return to their previous bodies. The proof from an Islamic perspective, that the people's souls will return to their bodies and they will be brought back to the life on the day of resurrection. And it shows this in the Quran and the Sunnah and by the consensus of the ulama of al-Islam. As for evidence from the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizes in his book, mentioning about the terrifying descriptions which would instill fear of it and the necessity to prepare for this day, is his statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قُلْ إِنَّ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَالْآخِرِينَ لَمَجْمُعُونَ إِلَى مِيقَاتِ يَوْمٍ مَعْلُومٍ. Say indeed, the former and the latter peoples will all be gathered together for the appointment on this known day. زَعَمَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَن لَّن يُبْعَثُوا قُلْ بَلَى وَرَبِّي لَتُبْعَثُنَّ ثم لتنبئن بما عملتم وذلك على الله يسير. Those who disbelieve and claim they will never be resurrected, say, yes, by my Lord, you will surely be resurrected. Then you will surely be informed of what you did, and that is easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also describes this last day. Yaumul Qiyamah, Ya ayyuhan nasu attaqu rabbakum, inna zalzalata as-sa'ati shay'un 'azim, yawma tarawnaha, tadhalu kullu murdi'atin amma arda'at, wa tada'u kullu dhatin hamlin hamlaha, wa tara an-nasa sukara, wa ma hum bisukara, walakinna 'adhab Allahi shadid. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, O mankind, fear your Lord. Indeed, the convulsion of the final hour is a terrible thing. On that day you see it. Every nursing mother will be distracted from that child she is nursing. Every pregnant woman will abort her pregnancy. And you will see the people appearing as if they are intoxicated when they're certainly not intoxicated. But the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is definitely severe. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also mentions regarding the terrifying events on this day, Al-Haqqatu mal-Haqqa, wa ma adaraka mal-Haqqa. The inevitable reality. What is the inevitable reality? And what can make you know what the inevitable reality is? Al-Qari'atu mal-Qari'ah, wa ma adaraka mal-Qari'ah. يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش. The striking calamity. What is the striking calamity? What can make you know what the striking calamity is? It is a day on which people will become like moths dispersed, and the mountains will become like fluffed wool. And similar descriptions and names for the last hour are numerous that you find in the Quran and the Sunnah. All of them are frightening because it will be a tremendous day. It will be a day like no other day. And if we did not believe in it and its serious consequences, then we should not act to prepare for it. We could not prepare for such a grave, serious event unless we believe in it correctly and we have knowledge of this day. And there would be no way to do this except with the descriptions, as we're going to mention in these khutbahs going forward, inshallah ta'ala. As for evidence from the sunnah of the Masjid sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about the events of the resurrection, there are many ahadith. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he made it clear what will happen on that day, and these ahadith will cover over the complete series of khutbahs pertaining to this topic. As for evidence according to the consensus of the ulama, the third type of evidence, Muslims have always been in absolute agreement that believing in the last day is a part of al-iman. Because of this, whoever disbelieves in the last day is not a true believer. Of course, if such an individual, he is new to al-Islam, or he's been totally uninformed, then this person, he has an excuse. But after the correct belief is made clear to him, and if he insists on disbelieving in the last day, then this person becomes a disbeliever. There's also a fourth type of religious evidence about the events of the resurrection and how true that last day is, the previously revealed scriptures. And all of them collectively confirm that of Yaumul Qiyamah. Because of this, the Yahud and the Nasara, the Jews and the Christians, have always believed in it and continue to do so to this day. You hear them saying things like, this person is forgiven, may God forgive him, and similar things that show they believe in a resurrection, they believe in the hereafter, and they believe in the last day. And there's even a fifth type of evidence, which suggests Yaumul Qiyamah. And that fifth evidence is the intellect. And this reasoning is that such a day were not to occur, then there will be little meaning to creation. It will be vain and foolish. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is high above any faults of foolishness in play. What wisdom would there be in creating people who are instructed to believe, to behave a certain way, prohibited from things, and required to endure things, but yet they just simply die? Yet they just simply vanish with no accounting for any of it, no reward, no punishment for any of it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He questions you in His ayah, in Surah Al-Mu'minun. أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أنما خلقناكم عبثا وأنكم إلينا لا ترجعون فتعالى الله الملك الحق لا إله إلا هو رب العرش الكريم. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, he questions those and he say, did you think that we created you meaninglessly, without purpose, and that you would never return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So exalted is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-malikul haq, the king of the truth, and there is no true God except him subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of the noble throne. What is our purpose in this life? What is our purpose in this life? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to do righteous deeds. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created mankind only to worship him. And he subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, إِنَّ الَّذِي فَرَضَ عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ. Indeed, he who imposed upon you the Qur'an will surely bring you back to a place of return. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instruct mankind with the Qur'an, instruct them with the Sunnah, instructed them to act according to it, all the while knowing that there would really never be a time when people will return to him, never a day on which we would be held accountable or rewarded for our compliance to the Qur'an and the Sunnah that he has imposed upon us. So those 5 things of evidence confirming or implying the day of resurrection and that people will be brought back to life is that their souls will return to their bodies. After the souls returning to the bodies, mankind will then rise from their graves. And this will be the second portion of the khutbah. Inshallah ta'ala, أقول ما تسمعون واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. The second event that will occur on the last day is mankind, he will rise from his grave. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he says mankind will then rise from their graves barefooted, naked, uncircumcised, to stand before the Lord of all of the creation. His statement, rahimahullah ta'ala, from their graves is based on the fact that most people are buried in their graves. They are buried in the ground, although it is obvious that other people died and were not buried in the earth. He said to stand before the Lord of all of the creations, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have called them forth at the time. And he subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in his book, وَاسْتَمِعْ يَوْمَ يُنَادِي الْمُنَادِي مِنْ مَكَانٍ قَرِيبٍ يَوْمَ يَسْمَعُونَ الصَّيْحَةَ بِالْحَقِّ ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْخُرُوجِ. And listen on the day when the caller will call out from a place that is near, the day they will hear the blast of the horn in truth. That day is the day of the rising from the graves. And as a previously mentioned hadith, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, ثُمَّ يُرْسِلُ اللَّهُ أَوْ قَالَ يُنْزِلُ اللَّهُ مَطَرًا كَأَنَّهُ طَلُّ أَوْ ظِلُّ فَتَنْبُتُ مِنْهُ أَجْسَادُ النَّاسِ ثُمَّ نُفِخَ فِيهِ أُخْرَى فَإِذَا هُمْ قِيَامٌ يَنْظُرُونَ ثُمَّ يُقَالُ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ هَلُمَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions, or the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send down rain like dew from which the bodies will grow. Then it will be blown again the horn, and at once they will all be standing, looking on, and this is the caller. O mankind, come to your Lord. وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ. But stop them, they are certainly going to be questioned. All people will rise to this momentous call, emerging from their graves to present themselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of all of the creations. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, he says, أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ لِيَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ النَّاسُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Do they not think that they will be resurrected for this tremendous day, the day when mankind will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of all of the worlds. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يحشر الناس يوم القيامة على أرض بيضاء أفراء ككرسة النقي ليس فيها معلم لأحد, that the people will be assembled on the day of resurrection on a white plain with a reddish tinge like a loaf of white bread, and there will be no signs of markings on it for anyone. People will rise from their graves barefooted, wearing no socks, wearing no shoes, no clothing to cover themselves. They will be completely naked, having on no clothing to cover the rest of their bodies, and they will be uncircumcised. On Yaumul Qiyamah, the original creation will not be diminished in any way. Just as we came into this life as a child from the wombs of our mothers, we will rise on that day the same exact way as the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says in the hadith that we will all be resurrected, barefooted, naked, and uncircumcised. Even the foreskins of those who were circumcised in this dunya will return, just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَمَا بَدَأْنَا أَوَّلَ خَلْقٍ نُعِيدُ. As we began the first of creation, we will repeat it. As for this hadith that we previously mentioned, that mankind will be resurrected, barefooted, naked, and uncircumcised. Our mother, Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she said, O Messenger of Allah, women and men together like that, looking at each other, look at the reply of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ya Aishatu, al-amru ashaddu min an yanzura ba'dahum ila ba'd. O Aisha, the circumstances will be more serious than for people to be looking at one another naked. Every single person will have enough to be concerned about with his own self. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions this in his book. يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ شَأْنٌ يُغْنِيهِ. On the day, this day, every man will flee from his brother. Every man will flee from his mother, his father. Every man will flee from his wife, from his children. Everyone that day will have enough to make him careless of others. Can you imagine if he was careless of our mothers, careless of our fathers? We disregarding our children. Neither will men be looking at men or women, nor women looking at men. Every single person's own son and father will flee from him, afraid that he may seek justice for rights that he may not have fulfilled during his life in this dunya. If the circumstances, brothers and sisters, on that day will be as grave and terrifying as that, then men and women will not care at looking about one another's bodies. The situation will surely be extremely severe and frightful. However, after that, the initial rising from the graves, naked, as we were first created, the people after that will then be clothed. And as the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentions the authentic hadith that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wa salam, he will be the first one to be clothed. After mankind rises from their graves, the third event is that the sun will be brought close, and this is something we will cover in the next khutbah inshallah ta'ala. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استووا اعتدلوا. Fill in the gaps, foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder. Do not leave any gaps for the shaitan. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. فإذا جاءت الصاخة يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه وجوه يومئذ مسفرة ضاحكة مستبشرة ووجوه يومئذ عليها غبرة ترهقها قترة أولئك هم الكفرة الفجرة. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. القارعة ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية راضية وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to encourage everyone to please give generously to your masjid before you leave. See Abdullah Jordan in the back. We have, for those who have debit cards and such, and we have also collection boxes. We have to take care of this masjid because it belongs to us. We don't do it any other way but from us. We all come together and we make it happen. So please, inshallah, let's all do what is right and get the blessings of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.